Welcome to another episode of Historical Markers. Today we're here on Tybee Island, as the sign behind me says, and we're looking at many of the historical markers. We've had a look at Fort Pulaski, which is basically on Tybee Island, very close to it, but the actual markers on Tybee Island are a little farther down. There's some down by the lighthouse and some others in the various areas around the island. So let's take a look at those and see what it will tell us. Lazaretto. After the repeal of the anti-slavery provision in the Charter of the Colony of Georgia in 1749, an act permitting the importation of slaves ordered the erection of a Lazaretto quarantine station on Tybee Island. Not until 1767 were 104 acres purchased from Josiah Tatnall for this purpose. Completed the following year, the buildings were situated on the westernmost tip of Tybee at the mouth of what soon became known as Lazaretto Creek, and its hospital voyagers who arrived ill were treated, and those who died were buried in unmarked graves. After continuous use through the Revolution, the grand jury reported it in ruinous condition in 1785, and a new station was later erected on Cockspur Island. The Back River National Historic District. It is a nationally recognized historic district that lies between 14th Street and the Tybee River Inlet on Chatham Avenue and the Tybee River. The Back River cottages were developed at the same time as the cottages on the Strand District, and their designs share many similarities. These homes were characterized by hipped roofs, deep porches, and raised designs. When they were built, they would have been connected by wooden boardwalks, as seen in the photo below. The cottages on the Back River were more likely to be built by full-time residents of Tybee or families from Savannah. One distinctive difference between the cottages located on the Strand versus the Back River was the servants' quarters, which would have been located in an addition off the back of the house instead of underneath the house. The Back River was also where clubs, such as the Chatham Artillery Club, chose to build their clubhouses. This is Nickie's Fountain. Let's see if we can find some information about it. Nickie's Fountain was donated to the city of Tybee Island by Nicholas Charles Alexander in loving memory of his wife, Von Seal Nickie, as he was known to his many friends, was a Tybee icon. A city council member, business owner, and shrewd entrepreneur, Nickie loved Tybee, its citizens, and its quirkiness. Nickie developed a strong bond to the island and was a visionary leader in the development of the city's business district. He served in the U.S. Army before moving to Tybee and lived here for over 70 years. Born in 1921, Nickie died peacefully at the age of 94 in his Tybee home on March 11th of 2016. He will forever be remembered as a quiet but forceful presence, loyal and generous to his many friends who loved him, and this fountain is Nickie's bequest to his beloved island home. So let's take a look at it again. This is Nickie's Fountain. This marker marks the end of US 80 on Tybee Island, and it's also the Korean War Veterans Memorial Highway, and it's dedicated on 4/7 of 2008 by the Republic of Korea and a grateful nation. Here on the back is a list of all of those who served during the Korean War. And here's the beginning of US 80. Tybrisa Street, formerly known as 16th Street, developed as a main street for Tybee Island after the 1931 fires. Prior to the July 1931 fire, Tybrisa Street was filled with rooming houses, which were wooden structures with wooden shingles. After the first fire, new building codes were put into place that forbade wooden shingles. But before the code could be enacted, another fire broke out in September of 1931. These two fires would change the entire look of Tybee Island's main street. During the housing shortage of the 1940s following World War II, Tybee Island was an economical place to live. This caused the city to slowly transition from a resort town to a full-time community, and as the community developed, so did the main street. However, the fires of 1931 were not forgotten, and Tybee Island's new main street was made of concrete block with the hope that a potential future fire would not spread as easily. The Tybrisa Pier and Pavilion has a long history on Tybee Island. The original Tybrisa Pier and Pavilion was built around the turn of the 20th century as a segregated event venue for the Georgia of Central Railroad. It included a bandstand, a dance floor, and bathhouses. It was the heart of the entertainment district on Tybee, with wooden walkways that connected it to every major hotel along the Strand. Eventually, Tybrisa would have roller skating and rides for the kids during the day, with more adult-oriented events in the evening, such as dancing to the likes of Glenn Miller or Tommy Dorsey. Slowly, the structure began to decline, and due to dispute in ownership, Tybrisa closed to the public in 1963. In 1967, the building was burned by a disgruntled employee who never received his wages. The current pier and pavilion was built in anticipation of Tybee hosting the 1996 Summer Olympics beach volleyball competition, and despite the fact that Tybee Island was not chosen to host the competition, in August of 1996, Tybrisa was rebuilt and once again serves an event venue for Tybee Island. And here is the pavilion today. The Tybee Pier and Pavilion. Looks like there's a bunch of picnic tables up here. Somebody's playing some music. Not sure where the music's coming from. Oh, it looks like they have some places that sell things in here as well at times, probably in the summer, not in January when I'm here. Okay, I'm just going to shoot these two because of all the music going on in the background. Savannah Beach Wade-Ins. On August 17, 1960, 11 African-American students were arrested 6 blocks north of here at Georgia's first wade-in, protesting the whites-only public beaches. During the era of segregation, Savannah's African-Americans were forced to travel outside of the city for public beach access. NAACP Executive Secretary Roy Wilkins announced the wade-in as a desegregation tactic for public beaches following the April 1960 wade-in at Biloxi, Mississippi, where an angry white mob attacked protesters. An extension of the Savannah movement, the Savannah Beach wade-in were planned and implemented by the local NAACP Youth Council under the leadership of WWII. The last wade-in at Savannah Beach was in July of 1963. Savannah Beach and the city's other public places were integrated by October of 1963, 8 months before the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Here on the corner of the road at Tybee Island is this anchor, and the marker says anchor. Salvaged from the sunken wreck of the old wooden sailing ship discovered several miles off the north shore of Tybee Island, the anchor, ballast rock, and some iron debris were all trapped remaining of the deteriorated vessel. It's kind of hard to read. This marker is for the City Hall, 1940, the Tybee Island City Hall. By comparison to our neighbor Savannah, is a relatively young city. The city was chartered in 1887 as Ocean City and a year later the name was changed to the town of Tybee. Tybee Island was developed as a seaside resort town for the Central of Georgia Railroad, and the majority of the island's small full-time population worked within the booming tourist industry. In 1929, the town once again changed its name to the town of Savannah Beach. And by the beginning of 1940, Tybee Island had a year-round community of 636 people, and more than 600 houses had been built. Savannah Beach, as it became known, had grown to over 1,000 residents by the end of 1940. The neoclassical City Hall was completed for the sum of $27,000 in 1939, which would be about $541,000 in 2022. The building was used for city business as well as for city and community events. During this time, Tybee Island also built its first public school in 1943, a new recreation known as Memorial Park, and the Fort Screven Theater became the community movie theater. By 1980, Tybee Island's population had swelled to over 2,200 people, and to return to its roots, the town of Savannah Beach changed its name back to the city of Tybee Island. And here is the Tybee Island City Hall. This marker was erected to the memory and honor of the men who served their country during World War II from Savannah Beach. You can see all the names listed there. In front of the YMCA, we have this big monument to the Department of the Navy, United States Marine Corps, Department of the Army, Department of the Air Force, on this side it says the United States Merchant Marines, and the United States Coast Guard. And then behind me it says, from the Revolutionary War through the current day, volunteers have stepped forward to defend the United States of America and our freedoms. For their unwavering dedication and undying love for our country, this memorial is dedicated to all veterans of all branches that served, but especially for those that didn't come back. For those that came back with broken minds or bodies, and most of all, those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Very nice monument here in front of the YMCA. A school lesson, the history of the Second Tybee Island Elementary School. The city of Tybee Island was incorporated in 1887, and a small year-round population had developed, creating the need for local services, including a school. The first Tybee school was in an old wooden structure built at the turn of the century, and a new building was built in 1955 in the mid-century style. I'm assuming this is the current school. The second Tybee school remained open until 1988, when it closed due to not meeting local integration requirements that were the result of Tybee's demographics and the Chatham County refusing to bus students from Savannah to Tybee Island. The old school building is now used by the local YMCA, the community for meetings and events, and the local Tybee Island Maritime Academy for classes. The old school is once again being used to teach Tybee's children. And this is the YMCA. This is the Tybee Memorial Cemetery. This is the only cemetery on Tybee Island, and much of its history remains shrouded in mystery. It is believed that the township established a small plot of land in the 1870s to provide victims of shipwrecks and other drowning victims a final resting place. George Hell Wortham farmed this land, and at the time apparently received approval to use the site as a family burial plot. 5 members of the Wortham family are buried here, and descendants still live in the area. With development on Tybee, those interested in private burial plots were relocated here. Descendants of witnesses to the reburial continue to offer accounts of these events to this day. The town of Tybee inventoried the cemetery in 1922 and identified 18 people thought to be buried here. 12 of whom were included in the town's 1922 inventory, remain identified by markers. Records of the locations of the remains of Frank Piot, Mr. Bergman, Mrs. McKenzie, and 3 infants, and Bernard Sanders have been lost. Shortly after that inventory, the town suddenly closed the cemetery with no recorded explanation. 30 years later, it reluctantly yielded to the petitions of the Jennings family and allowed the ashes of William Jennings to be placed here. Ground-penetrating radar was used in 2004 to locate 36 potential burial sites in the vicinity of the cemetery. All are now enclosed within the wrought iron fence. To all known and unknown people buried here, we offer our respect and assurance that you are not forgotten. May you rest in peace. People who made contributions. And then here's the cemetery and the wrought iron fence. And a few of the stones that are inside. Well, that was a look at the markers at Tybee Island. I hope you found this interesting. Let us know what you'd like to see in the future. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode of Historical Markers.